All right, it's recording. Hello, I'm Nate Bokel.
And I'm Tyler Hammond, and thanks for tuning in to the TNS Sports Podcast, where weekly we talk about sports and just try and have some fun. Nate's going to go ahead and get you started with some of the scores for the week.
Alrighty, so I'll start off with some college football. Washington State's given USC a pretty good game, 39-36 with 8 minutes left in the fourth. Penn State took care of Illinois pretty easily at home. UCF took on Florida Atlantic and handled them pretty easily. Another sports news that all we really had was golf and baseball. As everyone knows, Tiger Woods tops the leaderboard with Justin Rose before the third round tomorrow. And basically, what everyone is most interested in is baseball, so we'll get into that a little bit. The Rockies won today, which is a big plus for us. Baseball is kind of funny. Seemed like yesterday, 2 days ago, we thought our world was shattered when the Rockies got swept by the Dodgers in LA, but now the Rockies won tonight. And if the Padres can pull this one out, we're a game and a half back, and anything's possible.
Especially, I just want to add on there, especially when we got 7 of our last 10 games. Well, I guess we have 9 games, but 7 of our last 9 at home. And
Yeah,
I think that's going to be huge.
Yeah, that's going to be huge. We have the Dodgers played their last 6 on the road, and we play our last 7 at home. I mean, our schedule's been absolutely brutal. We played, 54 games in a row against teams above 500, a record.
Yeah, it's like an MLB record.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll come back to that in a little bit. Milwaukee scored 6 in the 6th inning to beat Pittsburgh, which is unfortunate. The Yankees are holding their own. I mean, let's be honest, the AL is pretty much done and dusted, pretty much. You had the Red Sox who clinched yesterday. They clinched the division. The Astros clinched today. I guess technically the A's could still win that division, but most likely not going to happen. And then you have the A's and Yankees who are probably going to get the wild card spots, with the Indians also clinching the other day. Now it's the NL where it gets pretty interesting. And what are your thoughts on how the playoff picture in the NL is going to pan out?
I'm excited to see it pan out because I mean, obviously there's 3 or 4 teams that these last 10 games are just going to be absolutely um, obviously the most important games of the season. But once you get deep into September, they really bring a new meaning to that importance. And I mean, Colorado, if they could, come back and pull something out of their butt, I mean, that would be huge, fun to see. The Dodgers, I mean, like you said yesterday, they sweep the Rockies at home, and they're thinking, they're up by a game and a half or two and was it 1.5, 2.5?
Myers just hit a bases clearing double right there, put the Padres up by 5 runs. So it's looking like, unless barring a miracle comeback there, looking like the Rockies are going to jump 1.5 games back, which makes it just as interesting.
You'd think that's baseball, though. I mean, you'd think LA'd be able to win a series at home against the Padres, and then they're going to go to. Did they go to San Francisco, or San Francisco go to them?
The rest of their games are on the road. They finished the series.
So, and that's another thing. I mean, like Colorado's got the rest of their games at home, and the Dodgers have the rest of their games on the road. You never know what can happen.
So, like we said, the AL picture is pretty much done and dusted. What are your predictions on how the NL playoff picture is going to pan out?
The NL?
Yeah, the NL.
I don't know. It's tough to see. I think it depends on how the Dodgers do. If they're able to hold their own, then I think they're going to win the division. I think Colorado. I think both Colorado and Los Angeles are going to make it. I have a feeling that St. Louis is going to choke. They have some tough games. Don't they play the Brewers and the Cubs? Right? Is that the rest of their schedule?
It is.
Yeah. So I mean, those are obviously. I mean, the Brewers are. I mean, they're one of the hotter teams in baseball right now. I mean, they're only 6-4 in their last 10, but just the kind of numbers they've been able to put up with Yelich and stuff. I don't know. I think they're going to be able to hold out that wild card spot pretty easily. They're a great team. The Cubs are obviously the best team in the NL, as by their record. So I think St. Louis is going to drop, and I mean as long as Colorado and LA can keep playing the type of baseball that they've been playing throughout September. Granted, Colorado series against LA. I think they're going to be fine. They should both make the playoffs.
Yeah, see, I agree and I disagree. I just don't see the Rockies pulling it out. If that NL Central spot was a little tighter, maybe if the Cardinals were, I don't know, a game and a half back from Milwaukee, maybe because then they'd play each other and the Rockies would benefit either way, kind of control their own destiny. But since Colorado's 4.5 back of Milwaukee right now, so really, realistically, we're rooting for Milwaukee to beat St. Louis. Whereas if it was a little closer, it wouldn't have mattered who won. If we handled our business, maybe we could even grab that first wild card spot. Um, but with that being said, I mean, right now we're going to be sitting a game and a half back from St. Louis and a game and a half back for the Dodgers. So I don't know. As a Rockies fan, in my eyes, I really think the Rockies are shooting for the division or bust still. Obviously, it's out of their hands, but yeah. And
Yeah,
then
I'd
I guess
agree. I think they definitely have. I think honestly they're going to have a better chance. I think if they do make it, they'll probably win the division just because if they
I
are
think
going to make it, they're going to have to get hot at home on the road or at home in this final stretch, right?
which
So I think,
is scary because then more likely than not they'd have to go on the road for a playoff or a wild card game if they don't end up winning that
yeah,
division.
which I mean, you don't want to get too far. I mean, I don't see us winning a road wild card game anyways. I think it's going to be similar to what happened last year.
Yeah,
But I don't know. I have confidence. I think. I mean, unless if St. Louis goes out and handles their business against the Brewers and the Cubs, then well, I mean, shit, they should definitely be in the playoffs because they just beat two playoff teams to get into it.
yep.
So I think. I mean, it's all in the team's destiny. It's just or in the team's hands. Sorry, and I just think whatever. However, I mean, it's baseball, September baseball, so whatever happens, happens.
Just kind of ironic with the Rockies. You'd figure the reason they wouldn't be holding their own destiny is because of the bullpen or starting pitching, but it's actually been the offense lately. They scored what, like less than 15 runs in the
I mean, they
uh,
scored 3 runs
they
in
scored
that
about 10
in
runs
the
in those
Giants
6 games.
series.
Huh?
Scored
Yeah,
what?
yeah. They scored
Did they even put up
yeah
10 against
nine
the
runs. I
Dodgers?
think 9 runs their last 6 games on the road, barring
That's pretty
not
ridiculous.
including tonight's game, but yeah, I mean, even tonight, their offense, we had no hits through the first 4 and a third innings. We had put up a 4 hole in the eighth inning, but or sixth inning, I believe, seventh, eighth. No, it was the eighth. But yeah. All right, so let's take this a step further. Say, I mean, right now it's hard to speculate since the last NL spot is up to. There's still probably 3 teams hunting for that. I think the Diamondbacks are probably finished with being 6 games back.
Yeah, they should be.
So I don't know. Say that wild card is either Colorado or St. Louis. How do you see who's your pick to win the World Series or go to the World Series? What's your World Series matchup? I should say.
In the NL, I guess the World Series. I think Boston's gonna. I think they're gonna go through. They'll probably Houston will give them a challenge, but I think for the most part they're gonna blow through it. They just been playing so well this year, and their starting rotation is absolutely dominant. And then they got guys like Mookie Betts and uh, I'm blanking on his name. It's JD Martinez on offense, who both put up absolutely insane numbers. So I think they're going to walk through. They should be able to walk through most of the AL, and I think Houston will give them a 6 or 7 game series in the LCS. As for the NL, I really don't know. I mean, you'd think the Dodgers would make it just because they have so much depth. Um, but I mean, who knows? I honestly, I think if the Rockies get hot and they start figuring their stuff out, I think they can make a run if they make it. I think the Brewers could be a dark horse and come through and do some damage. I mean, I don't really have a favorite in the NL.
Oh, Manny Machado just made a great play, but if the guy knew how to run, he'd probably be safe. Anyway, yeah, yeah, with the NL, I completely agree. I think that is a complete toss of a coin. I mean, there- a lot of people are saying, "Oh, the Cubs are my favorite," but are they? Like, I don't know. They have not convinced me. Their
No,
starting
yeah,
pitching shaky this
it's
year.
been mediocre. Yeah,
I mean, this might surprise a lot of people, but my pick to win the World Series is the Astros again. I mean, yeah,
yeah.
they've been living under the shadow of Boston all year, but they just went to Boston and swept them. Their starting pitching is like, how do you beat that starting pitching when you got Verlander, Cole, and Keuchel? I mean, Keuchel hasn't been very good this year, but I mean, we saw what he did in the World Series last year. You never know. I just think that starting pitching, plus with the firepower, when Altuve is healthy and Correa is healthy, they're almost unstoppable. Yeah, I mean, Boston does have a lot of firepower, but we'll see what they can do with that. I just don't know. I think the Houston's starting pitching will outmatch them, and then yeah, like I said in the NL, I can see, I can see the Cubs winning the World Series. I can also see the Rockies. I can see the Cardinals. I just the Brewers.
I mean, yeah.
I mean,
Uh,
he's
so I mean, I guess we could get into now. We could talk about MVPs for these leagues.
yeah.
Who do you got for the AL and the NL?
AL is my God. AL. There are so many guys you could pick from, and you could not go wrong with. You can
Yeah,
Sale. I mean, I don't think it should be a pitcher the way JD Martinez might win Triple Crown. I think he's like first and second in almost every single category.
yeah.
And then you got Mookie Betts, Jose Ramirez, Francisco Lindor. Like there's so many guys like put their names in a hat and pick one out really. But if it ended right now, like I don't see how you don't give it to JD Martinez, even Mike Trout. But I think if the Angels were in first place and had 106 wins with 8 to go or 9 to go, then sure, give it to Mike Trout. But the team's not too good, and the way Mookie and JD Martinez have carried the team, I don't think Chris Hill's pitched quite enough this year. I think he gets Cy Young. I don't really think maybe Blake Snell could, because I mean I feel bad for the Rays. I mean they're what's their record? They're
The Rays.
so the Rays are 86 and 67, 19 games over 500, and they're 18 and a half back.
Yeah,
But if they were in the NL, I think the Cubs would be the only one with a better record than them. So you can't really overlook that in terms. Yeah, they might not make the playoffs, but they still might go 25 games over 500.
yeah.
So I think you could even look at Blake Snell as MVP. So yeah, I would I guess edge that to JD Martinez, and then in the NL, oh man, I
There's a
mean,
lot. Almost the NL's harder because
yeah,
like the
they're
AL is
not, they're
hard
not as
because
good.
there's so many great players,
Yeah,
but the NL there's just a lot of like
close
decent,
candidates, I think.
like
Yeah.
close candidates, but they're none of them really
Um,
stick out.
like Yelich has been really hot lately, but I don't think he really boosts the power number or boasts the power numbers, I should
Yeah,
say.
exactly.
Still 2 home runs. I mean, I think Nolan's out of the question. I think
Yeah,
Story's
I think
very
they're both
impressive, but
out.
yeah, I think they're probably both out. Um, if the Mets were any better, which you can't dock DeGrom for it, but like if they gave any run support whatsoever, then I think you'd have to give it to DeGrom. What he's
That's
done,
a
what is it,
great point.
26 games in a row, quality starts,
Yeah,
26 quality starts in a row. It's an MLB, or I think the last 100 years. Who cares? I mean, does baseball before 1940 count?
yeah.
Anyway, um, and then Carpenter, who's cooled down a lot lately, but my pick is going to be for Javi Baez. I think what he does for the sport, when you talk about most valuable player, you can put him anywhere in the infield, it seems like, and he's going to make plays. The dude just plays with such passion, and he's a great hitter. I mean, the dude has just been. He seems like MLB's. I mean, they've made it into a meme. People complaining about Javi Baez, but the dude is just a stud. He's hitting. I mean, yeah, he's only hitting 294 this year. I mean, only, but he's got 33 home runs for not being the biggest guy in the world, and his slugging is 569. His OPS is 898, which is really good. I mean, and he's got the speed. He's 21 stolen bases. The dude's having a 30-20 season. I mean, I think he might still lead the league in the NL, I should say, in RBIs. But yeah, those are my two picks, Javi
Yeah,
and
uh, for the AL, I think I'd have to agree with JD Martinez, especially that. I mean, even just going back to the first half, I mean, he was absolutely. I mean, didn't he have like 30 something home runs before the All Star break, or 40 home runs before the All Star break.
Yeah, I think it was like 30. No, it wasn't that many, but yeah, he had. Because I think he's.
I think he had 30 plus.
Yeah, he had 30. I think 32, something like that. Yeah.
But which is, I mean, that's absolutely. He was just stroking the ball the first half. I mean, he's cooled down too, but he's still putting up, I mean, huge AL leading numbers, which is,
331.
yeah,
So
exactly, which is the second best.
41 home runs.
Yeah,
You don't
his
see that anymore. Stan hits
exactly,
41 home runs. He's hitting 280. I mean, you don't see that anymore.
exactly. As for so I'd agree there in the AL. As for the NL, I mean, I'm kind of with you. I think there's a lot of different options with you. I like Yelich, how he's just heating up late, and really kind of solidifying that the Brewers are going to get that wild card spot. But I mean, I'd agree with you that Nolan and Story are both out of the question. I think maybe if Story hadn't gotten hurt and had maybe had a few big hits, couple home runs in these past couple of games, which is, I mean, that's a lot to ask for, but I think he'd still be in the argument.
Those
Um,
first 2 months were tough for him.
yeah, exactly, and that's true. He had a really rough start. But yeah, I mean, on it,
Let's be
I,
honest, and they're going to use cores against him. So
I think I'd have to agree with Javi Baez. The dude is just an absolute. I mean, he's probably him and Mookie are like 1 and 2 for the most athletic. I mean,
yeah,
and
it
Trout
was
as well, but most
both his
athletic
most
players on the
in
field,
time.
and he's putting up the numbers to support it.
Yep.
Um, and I think he really is I think he's the heart of that Cubs team as well. Even though you got guys like Rizzo and Chris Bryant, I think he really just embodies the team, and um, I'd go with him right now.
Completely agree. All right, so I think that's probably so. We said Javi and JD for MVPs. You said Boston versus who'd you take in the NL? Cubs.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Boston and no, I'm gonna go Boston and LA. I think LA
Boston,
can.
LA. I think
Yeah,
LA is just. Oh, I don't know.
I
You
think they
see that
can
you have good
choke,
teams and
but
the Rockies, and then yeah, they're like the Rockies. They're good against good teams. They have playoff experience. Yeah, I'd agree. Except with Houston, I'd say Houston and LA if LA can make the playoffs. Um, yeah. All right. So that should be enough for baseball tonight. Up next, we'll move on to football. We'll look at some of the matchups this week. Talk about last night's game between my Brownies, and yeah, look at some of the teams and their matchups this weekend. All right. So I guess first we should go over the game last night, and I know you didn't watch much of it, but
I
the
wasn't able to.
Browns
Sadly,
finally got their first win in 635 days against the.
the
It was
Jets of
against the
New
Jets,
York.
but let's get around who they were playing and get around the result. Um, as a Browns fan myself, it was one of the most. I don't even. There's no word.
Static moments the last 2 years.
That doesn't do it. That doesn't do it. It just. I can't. There's no word to
Yeah,
describe
it's
the
more
feeling.
than that.
I mean, make fun all you want, sports fans, but wins to Cleveland mean something. You know, they don't come very often, so that one was big. And but to me, that wasn't even the biggest part of the game. I think the biggest part of the game is what Baker Mayfield showed and
Absolutely.
what he could show going forward. I think if you're unaware, I mean, first half Tyrod came out was absolutely garbage. I think he was like 4 for 14. He had 19 yards and just missed throws, missed reads, held the ball too long, couldn't step up in the pocket, couldn't really get out of the pocket, and he had a concussion, which was the only reason Baker came in. I'm not sure Baker would have come in if if that concussion had not occurred, but regardless, he came in and Baker basically tore it up in the second half. He didn't really. He had, I think, one bad throw. He had 3 drops. He was just throwing lasers out there. He was just throwing darts. Just every single throw was perfect, and turned into a matchup of Baker versus Darnold, which a lot of people, including myself, saw because, yeah, I think, oh, who was it? God, what's the old coach of the Cowboys?
I don't know.
He's on. What's his name? Jimmy, whatever.
Oh,
Whatever.
yeah,
Yeah,
Jimmy.
he said Jimmy. We'll call him Jimmy.
Jimmy Johnson. No, it's no. That's the NASCAR driver.
I mean, basically saying they mentioned it last night. You can take a risk and be great, or you can play it safe and be good. And the Browns took a risk with Baker, and they're hoping he's great. And if signs of last night point towards what he's going to be like in the future, then man, we're going to have a good quarterback. Um, and I'll tell you what, like I think Darnold would be a great NFL quarterback. Like I think he can start in the league for more than a decade. But last night, man, and I mean, give the Browns defense credit; they're great. But last night, phew, 169 yards in 4 quarters. I think he was like 14 for 31. I saw him throw the ball further than 5 yards, maybe 3 times. I mean, I get it's a short week against a really good defense with not as many tools, but
Yeah, wasn't that their third game in 11 days or 10 days?
okay, it was their third game in 11 days. It was the Browns' third game in 12 days. I think that stat's a little
I didn't realize that.
overhyped. I mean, yeah, everyone that plays Thursday night football is gonna have 3 games in 12 days or 3 games in 11 days. So,
That's true.
um, yeah, I don't know. Browns had to deal with it too. Yeah, they were at home. Um, but yeah, I think Baker. There's no doubt in my mind he should be the starting quarterback going forward. Not even it wasn't even him. Like to be honest, the whole team. He came in that game. Like I was kind of reluctant to say Tyrod was bad. Yesterday I thought he was very poor, but the first 2 games he wasn't great. But I was kind of hesitant. Like our O line was terrible. Like we couldn't get anything going, and I was just like, well, I mean, we can't get anything going if our O line's not creating anything. But Baker came in, our O line looked great. We were running the ball, everything was open, the energy was there, the crowd was insane, and I just think Baker brings everything to the table, and he allows for our team to get better, and he should be our quarterback going forward.
I agree. I think that the main thing with Baker is, I mean, and to me, it's the same thing. And like, don't get me wrong, Houston had a terrible year last year, but we drafted Deshaun, went out, decided to start Tom Savage through the first 2 week and first what was it? I think it was week three it came in. I think so. We played Tom Savage the first 2 games, and then threw in Deshaun at halftime in that week 3 game, and it was just, I mean, he played just like Baker did, pretty much. I mean, statistically, I think Baker was better, but just the energy in Houston and just from the team, I think they just bring a whole different dimension to the team and a whole different energy and a whole different mindset. And I think they just lift up all the players around them. And I think it's just, um,
Absolutely.
I think that's what the Browns need. I mean, I thought he'd be starting by week 5 anyways. Um, but
Which is kind of weird because I mean I think that speaks more about Baker than how bad Tyrod is because Tyrod's been a Pro Bowler, and I think believe 2016 he was a Pro Bowler. So I mean Tyrod's no slouch. He's no Kaiser. Maybe if Kaiser was still here, well, obviously I think Baker would be starting in week 1. But
yeah.
yeah,
All right, let's talk about some of the scores. The games that just kind of stuck out last week for me. That Green Bay Minnesota game was crazy.
it was
Um,
a little controversial.
yeah, yeah, pretty controversial in my eyes. I think Minnesota should have lost the game before it was even over. Before they even went to overtime, that call on Clay Matthews with the roughing the
Absolutely.
passer on Kirk Cousins was absolutely pathetic. It was an arm tackle. Um, Took him to the ground about as soft as you could. So I mean, as just a football fan, that's very like annoying to see, but that is what it is. I mean, hey, I'm not a part of my team. Houston's not a part of the NFC. Um, so later in the year, that's going to be really fun having that tie there because then it's going to really come down to that home game in Minnesota. It's going to be that much bigger, just for that division in general.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I agree.
Kansas City winning the shootout against Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Mahomes has been like, I mean, you heard me going into the season. I hated Mahomes. I
I
don't
didn't hate
live.
him, but I didn't think no way anyone thought he'd be this good, other than Chiefs fans maybe.
I think some people did. I think some people were high on him, but I just did not think he was gonna. I don't know. I thought he was gonna go out and he's gonna buzz and he's gonna only win like 3 or 4 games. I thought the Chiefs were about to be terrible. But hey, I mean, he's proven his own. He's slinging the ball around, using his weapons. I mean, the Chiefs are looking great right now. Um, so I mean, that'll uh, stir things up in the AFC West. There, Denver won their first 2 games somehow. I'm not a Denver fan, but I mean, I guess good for them. Philip Lindsay's tearing it up as an undrafted pick.
We all know your thoughts on Philip Lindsay.
Yeah. Tampa Bay. Um, it's just, I mean, I feel like going in, I don't remember, I'm not exactly sure, but I'm pretty sure in the preseason, like power rankings stuff, I'm pretty sure Tampa Bay was like 29th, or 30th. They were way down there. And with the things popping up with Jameis being suspended, um, it's just, I mean, you come in, you're like, oh yeah, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Everybody knows who Ryan Fitzpatrick is. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, if you watch football, you know who Ryan Fitzpatrick is, and you know that he's a very mediocre quarterback, and that he's
Exactly.
going to go out there and he'll probably lead your team to be like 6-10 for sure. You're probably guaranteed that. But the way that he's been playing, I mean, him and Deshaun Jackson came out of a time capsule.
Yep.
Um, I mean, I love it. I think it's so much fun to see. Once again, they're in the NFC, so I don't really care.
hmm
But I think it's great to see, right? I mean, Fitz magic, baby.
It's now official. The Padres won, so the Rockies are officially a game and a half back. So that's good. And just yeah, capping off that matchup from this week with the Browns, I don't even think that was their biggest news of the week, really. I mean, it was. It was. Let's be honest. But from a non-football standpoint, their biggest news was trading wide receiver Josh Gordon to the Patriots for a fifth-round pick. And I was just listening to Ethan Bird's podcast, Sports Agenda, correct? I believe. Uh,
No agenda.
oh, yeah, no agenda, no agenda. There we go. And yeah, I just want to give him a little shout out. Thanks for the inspiration. And anyway, just following up on his take with it, he had more of a football take on it, which I mean, I think if you're looking at it from a football perspective, obviously, if Josh Gordon was on the field uh, for every game, then yeah, fifth round, that's a steal for the Patriots. And yeah, and if they can get the best out of him, if he can stay on the field that long, then yeah, I think it's a major steal. But I think the trade's more about the Browns just running out of patience with him, and I don't know. Yeah, they put up with him for 6 years, and he played in like 27 games, something like that, in 6 years. I don't know the exact
Yeah.
stat, but I don't know.
Um, I mean,
Definitely.
I agree with that, and I think my thing though is if there's one team in the NFL that can set him straight, I think it's the Patriots. And I think if he has issues with the Patriots and he has some sort of
I,
relapse again and gets into trouble again, I highly doubt he's ever gonna play football again.
yeah, I disagree because normally I'd say that, and honestly, if it was any other position, um, I would agree. The Patriots standpoint, yeah, like they get the best out of players, but it's wide receivers. I was listening to NFL Network the other day. I think they had 5 analysts on. Only one of them thought this was a good move. Which I mean, I don't know how you can think it's a bad move. Really, it's a fifth rounder. If he doesn't ever play, who
That's
cares?
true.
You lost a fifth rounder. But in terms of like future, the deal working out, none of them thought it would because when you look at the Patriots, how many times have they tried this? I mean, since Randy Moss, Ethan brought up Randy Moss, but Randy Moss left that team, I think, approaching 10 years ago now, and since that point, they haven't had a wide receiver. I believe
I mean,
they
yeah,
drafted Wes Welker, right? So I mean, in terms of them in
yeah.
free agency, they tried bringing in Ocho Cinco, they tried bringing in um,
Brandon
who
Cooks,
else?
right? Didn't Brandon Cooks come
Brandon
from?
Cooks, yeah. Brandon
Yeah,
Cooks came from the Saints. Amendola, like they bring in all these guys who are, I mean, yeah, they're all right, but they're not anyone they're not as good as they were before. And like, I don't know, I just think Gordon probably won't work out, and there's just something with wide receivers there. I just think they struggle bringing them in, but time will tell. And I think with all that being said, I think we can look at the matchups this week
let's
and
look at week 3.
what our thoughts are. So week 3, some of the 11 o'clock games. We'll start off with the hometown team, Denver versus Baltimore. Who you got?
I think I got Baltimore. And I mean, as much as I do hate the Broncos, it's gonna come out a little bit. I think that they're gonna go. I think this is their game. They're gonna lose it. I'm not saying that it's gonna be a blowout, but I don't expect them to win, and I think it's gonna be a little bit of a wake up call for the fans and stuff. Um, I think the Broncos are going to be better than I thought they were. And I said this going into the year. I thought they were either going to go 4-12 or they were going to go like 10-6 or something. And right now it's looking like they're going to go, 10-6 with the way that they're playing. Um, but I think they're going to lose.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, Baltimore's 5.5 point favorites, and I mean, it's honestly hard to ever bet against that defense. But let's be honest, if they were playing on the road those first 2 games, they lose both those games. They were very lucky to beat Oakland, and they were also somewhat lucky to beat the Seahawks. And the Seahawks are nowhere near the team they used to be. And I think if they want to win games going forward, Case Keenum has to step up. He has what 5 picks already on the year.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can't turn the ball over if you want to win games. All right, next game, your own Houston Texans versus the Giants. What do you think? I think the Texans grabbed their first win of the year. They are what? They're 6 point favorites at home opener. I think it would be wise to pick them. I really don't think they lose that game, but what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, as a fan, I'd be shell shocked if we lost this game. We should have won last week against Tennessee on the road. We going into the game, we definitely should have played
Yeah,
against.
I'll say.
Who was it? Who was their? Actually, I can't remember their quarter. What was their quarterback that they played? Who they played?
Oh, Blaine Gabbert.
Yeah, going in against Blaine Gabbert, Delaney Walker. Going on IR. We definitely should have won that game. We didn't give up that punt return. We probably would have won that game. And it's weird because it's not even like I feel like we played bad. We just didn't play as good as we could have. But
Mhm.
I think we're going to beat the Giants. I think this will be our wake up call, our home opener. I think we should definitely get our first win.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and the Giants, they said it last year. People were expecting them. They signed all these free agents on defense. That wide receiver core is supposed to be one of the best in the league. Ingram's such a fast tight end. Obviously, OBJ, Sterling Shepard. I mean that. And then they drafted Saquon, and they brought in Nate Solder. Their offensive line's supposed to be pretty good, and then their offense.
It's
They
just
have
not.
what? They just are. It's non-existent. They had 13 points last week, which honestly 10 of those were in garbage time, and then they had 15 in week 1 against the Jaguars. So 28 points in 2 games, it's just not going to cut it. So we'll see. And I don't think they're really going to score anymore this week. So all right, Jacksonville, Tennessee. I don't really think we need to talk too much about this game. I'm assuming we
Yeah,
both have
no.
Jacksonville winning that game.
And
Uh,
Jacksonville's going to win by three
yep.
touchdowns.
Kansas City versus San Fran. Now, I think this is a more interesting game than people think. I mean, I think the way Kansas City been playing, everyone, Mahomes is probably going to tear him up. It's in Kansas City, but I think this is Garoppolo's week to kind of show off a little bit. That Kansas City, everyone's talking about Kansas City's offense. Oh, Mahomes has 10 touchdowns, but Kansas City's defense has given up 65 points in two
Yeah,
games. I
yeah,
mean, that is nothing to go home and brag about. So I think this could be Garoppolo's. I mean, he had a good week last week. He wasn't bad by any means, but he wasn't. I mean, he just hasn't shown any flashes. They beat Detroit and scored 30 points, but it's Detroit who's given up like 78 points, something like that in their first 2 games. So I that's a tough one. I don't know. I think Kansas City wins, but I think it's a good game.
yeah. I agree. I think Kansas City's going to win. I don't like the 6.5 point favorites. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a nail biter down to the end. But I mean, you got to think Kansas City. They just like the Titans. They played their first 2 games on the road. So their home opener playing in the Red Sea. I think they should dominate.
Yeah.
Not dominate, but I think Garoppolo is going to step up and find himself. So I think it's going to be a shootout.
I do disagree with that actually though. Their first game was at home. They played in LA, and that's always a home game for the opposing team. I don't know if you saw
Okay,
if you saw that game. It
I
holds
didn't.
26. It holds 26,000 people. I'm pretty sure there were 23,000 Chiefs fans there. All right. Anyway, on to the next game. Another interesting one. Miami and Oakland. Oakland at Miami, I should say. Miami's 3-point favorites, and they're 2-0, and Oakland's 0-2. But I think that just shows how kind of fluky that matchup is, because I think Oakland could be 2-0 and Miami could be 0-2, and I think this is. I mean, Miami's gotten lucky; they haven't played a team with a win yet, so with that, their defense is pretty good, and I think Tannehill's a little slept on, and not slept on. He's a little forgotten though. So I think Miami holds out, and Oakland plays the Browns next week, so they're gonna start off 0-4.
I disagree. I think Oakland's gonna wake up this week. I think they're gonna. I think they're gonna figure out. They've had two tough losses. I mean, they had to go
No, I agree.
play. They had to play Los Angeles, which is always. I mean, I think LA is gonna win the Super Bowl. I think they're just. I mean,
The way they're
my
looking,
only
it sure
the way
looks
that
like it.
they're looking right now and the way that the players that they got. I mean, that was the only question is are they going to be able to put it together? So far, they have been able to put it together.
Mhm.
So that's a tough win. And then they had a very tough loss to Denver. It's always hard playing at Mile High. So I think they're going to be able to pull it together and beat Miami.
Yeah, I agree. And at the end of this, we can go over our early Super Bowl picks, but once we're done finishing the games. All right, next game, Atlanta at New Orleans. Now, this is always a good game. I mean, this is always, for years, it's been an absolute just shootout, Western style pew pew pew. But I mean, Atlanta's 3-point favorites, and so far the first two games. I mean, like I said, I think the Browns defense is something else, man. The Saints score 45 points, something like that, in the first week, and then score 17 against the Browns, and that was a kind of a lucky 17. We had a bad turnover in our territory on like our 20-yard line, which gave them a free touchdown. But Atlanta's 3-point favorites. It's just so tough being Drew Brees, isn't it? Especially
Yeah.
with his targets. I'm gonna go Atlanta though. I think Atlanta pulls it out.
I think I'm going to say New Orleans. Just looking at their games, I mean, they had to play. I mean, they barely beat that Browns team, which I mean, I agree with you. I think the Browns are like you said, if they had a kicker, they'd be 3-0. And I think the Browns are actually. I don't think they're the laughing stock of the league anymore by any means.
I can name five
I
teams.
think they're a serious team, and they also Saints also had to play the Buccaneers, which I mean the Buccaneers just shocked the Saints and the Eagles, so they're for real. So I think New Orleans is going to turn around and pick one up on the road in Atlanta this week. I don't like Atlanta.
Yeah. All right, Minnesota Buffalo. We don't need to talk about that. Minnesota has just been. I think they've looked really good. I mean, yes, they drew or tied last week, but in Green Bay, by no means is that an easy thing to do. Indianapolis, Philly. I think we both have Philly. I'm sure with Wentz.
Yep.
Green Bay, Washington. I think we both have Green Bay.
Yeah, I would
Uh,
agree.
Carolina, Cincinnati. That's an interesting game. Carolina's favored, but Cincinnati's one of those teams like you're just waiting for them to kind of bust open. You don't think they're going to be too good, but they've looked pretty good in their first two games. They beat Indianapolis, excuse me, on the road, pretty well, and then they really took it to Baltimore on Thursday Night Football last week. So what do you think about that game?
I like the Panthers going into it, just because I think I don't know. I think it's a tough one, honestly. I just
Yeah,
like Carolina because they're at home, and I think Cincinnati's just kind of fluky. I think they're gonna be
really.
a very up and down team. So I think win a couple, lose a couple. So I don't. It's a weird thought to me. I think it's gonna be a super close game, and Cincinnati could very well win it. But I think I'm gonna go with Carolina.
Yeah, it just scares me a little because I think that team is so close to just snapping on offense. I think, or clicking, I should say. I think they're really close to just busting out. I mean, once they start utilizing McCaffrey more, they started to in that second half. I think he had like 12 catches or something last week, which is
Exactly. Yeah.
from a running back. So once that offense starts to click, I think they'll pop off really. But against the Bengals defense, we'll see. I don't know. And I think the game of the week for me, no, I think the game of the week will probably be that Monday night game with Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
But this game's really good too. Battle of LA. You got the Chargers versus the Rams. Obviously, the Rams are a powerhouse and a lot of people's Super Bowl favorites, but the Chargers have a sneaky good defense, and their offense has been showing that they can hang with the best of them. So I think the Rams win. I don't think they cover the 7-point spread though.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree on that one. I think LA is going to definitely be able to pull it out, but well, LA. I
Yeah,
think the
which part?
Ram, the I think the Rams are definitely going to be able to pull it out. But I mean, the Chargers, they really do have a really good offense and a really solid offense and a solid defense. They're not going to be, the best in the league in either of those categories by any means, but Philip Rivers can always, he can make some magic happen, and I think that I could totally see the Rams dropping a couple games throughout the year in games like this against teams like the Chargers, who can just maybe come up with a couple turnovers on defense and just back it up on offense.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I mean that Rams team, I think they have too many weapons, and now that they have a little playoff experience, they're going to be deadly going forward. But I think it'll be a good game. Chicago, Arizona. Arizona has been the laughing stock of the NFC so far.
They've been terrible.
They even have a touchdown this year.
I'm not sure.
No,
Check
they have
that.
two field goals
Yep,
on the year.
they do
6
not.
points. Embarrassing.
There you go.
They're not going to. Chicago's defense is not going to do them any help on that either. Another good game, Dallas and Seattle. I should say it would have been a good game 2 years ago or 4 years ago, but
I still think it's going to be a good team because I think they both went the same direction.
it'll it'll be a good game. It's two teams I think looking on the decline from their better years, I should say. Dallas's offense has really struggled. They had a couple big plays last week, but other than that, they've struggled to consistently move the ball forward. Meanwhile, Seattle's defense just is not what they used to be. I think they have two guys left.
Yeah,
Wagner
from the 2012 team or whatever. Yeah.
and someone else, I think, or Wagner and Earl Thomas from that Super Bowl team. But like we said with the Texans and I believe the Chiefs, it's their first game of the year at home. So I think in that 12th man, we know there's really no one better.
Yep.
So I think Seattle pulls that one out.
I also think I also disagree. I mean, don't get me wrong, their defense isn't nearly where it was supposed to be. But with Earl Thomas hanging around and both of the Griffin brothers are both playing well.
Yeah, Shaquille, sorry, had 2 picks last week.
Yeah, Shaquille exactly. They had 2 picks, and they really have a chance to tear apart Dak Prescott, who I think is
Defense has been
one of
past 3 years.
yeah, and I think Dak Prescott is I think he's a below average quarterback. So
Yeah.
I think Seattle's definitely going to win that game.
And then, they changed it used to be a point and a half towards Dallas. Now it's a point and a half towards Seattle. I still think Seattle covers that. All right, New England and
Agreed.
Detroit Sunday night. Why this is a Sunday night game? Why the Detroit Lions have gotten 2 primetime games? Like, don't ask me. That against the Jets too. Like, who wants to watch that? Give me a break. And now, who wants to watch New England boat race Detroit? I don't. And if anything else happened, good for NBC. I mean, clap, clap, clap. Give them props for being able to actually pick out a good game for what no one thought would be. But yeah, I think New England wins that easily. Do you have any disagreeing thoughts on that?
No, I think New England's going to go out and I think they're going to have a big win.
Stafford's going to need to have a big game to make that a close game, and I think they'd have to make it a gun show, a high-scoring game to make it close. But I don't know if Detroit or if New England's defense will allow that to happen. And then I think a lot of people's game of the week is Pittsburgh at Tampa Bay. It's at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay hasn't lost yet. Pittsburgh hasn't won yet. But from history, I think you can just see that Pittsburgh has one of the most dynamic offenses in the league. They still don't have Le'Veon Bell, that is, but James Conner has been. I'm not gonna say
good.
that's explosive. I wouldn't say that. I mean, no one's as good as Le'Veon Bell. But he has 250 yards just rushing. So I mean, I think Uh, we all, I think both of us agree. Fitzpatrick, we don't know when it's going to happen. Uh, gonna have one of those games. I don't think it's gonna be against Pittsburgh's defense because they're not very good either. But one of these games, he's just gonna look like a completely different person and throw 4 picks. But I don't think this is the week. I don't think he has his best game of the season. Um, um, yeah, I think Tampa Bay wins. Pittsburgh's still looking for their first.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there. I just don't think with how explosive Tampa Bay's offense has looked against teams like the Saints and the Eagles, who are both high caliber teams in the NFC. Maybe not the Saints right now, but um, I just don't think there's no way that the Steelers defense, especially how god awful their secondary is going to be able. I mean, if Fitzpatrick plays anything near how he's played the first 2 weeks, I think it could honestly be a blowout. That is, if Ben throws a couple picks. If not, then it's just going to be an absolute shootout. It could be one of those games where there's going to be 8 picks and there's going to be 100 points scored between the two of them. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it
I
could
think
turn
I
out to
think
be one
Mike
of those games.
Tomlin's one of those coaches where his players have saved him. I mean, let's be honest.
Oh yeah.
I've heard from a lot of guys. Terry Bradshaw, one of the Pittsburgh Steelers all-time legends, called Tomlin a cheerleader. He says he does nothing on the sideline, and I think he's gone kind of under the radar now and leading that team. I think when you look at teams, we were talking about it today from the NBA standpoint, which we might get to next week, but in the NFL, in all professional sports, you're teaching professionals. So you're beyond the point of teaching them how to play the sport. You're handling egos and handling grown men, and all that stuff gets in the way. And the Steelers are at a point, yeah, they have enough talent to be good. That's obvious. But you're starting to handle all the drama, all the egos, all the contract disputes, and it's starting to show. Tomlin's terrible at it, and no one's really mentioning him being on the hot seat. But if they lose this week, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he was really starting to get mentioned to either be on the hot seat or not given really much time at all. And I think the Steelers are 1 year away from just completely crumbling. I think wouldn't be surprised if Antonio Brown leaves. Big Ben's probably going to retire, especially if they're bad this year. There's no way Le'Veon plays another down for the Steelers in my mind. But yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Tomlin is just so. I think he's really bad at managing the locker room. I feel like he's always kind of had that way, and I think he's always had. Um, I mean, he's able to get the best out of his players, which is why he's such a great coach. But in terms of dealing with locker room stuff, I feel like that's always been an issue for him. And definitely, I mean, you could see. I mean, they were some of the super. I mean, they were top five in Super Bowl favorites for the season. They could start the season 0-3
Yeah.
against teams like, or sorry, 0-2-1 against teams like the Browns and Tampa Bay, who were 32-31 in the power rankings going into the year.
Their
So
schedule's
I
better.
definitely,
3 games and they might not get a win. So yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I definitely think he could be on the hot seat.
All right. So before we wrap this up, I think we'll look at let's each pick a gimme game, a game that we think a team will definitely win, and let's pick an upset. And then I think we should give our Super Bowl predictions for the season. So yeah, go ahead with your game that you think 100% will win. We'll say 100% covers the spread. How about that? A game you would 100% bet on with 100%.
100% cover the spread. Let me see here. I gotta look through them. I'm gonna go ahead. The spread is 16.5 for Minnesota. Um, that's got to be one of the bigger spreads
Too
they've
easy
seen
just
in
to take
in a while.
Minnesota to beat Buffalo. That'd be too easy. You gotta put the spread in there.
No, but 16.5. That's yeah.
No,
Well, exactly. That's what it said. Like 16.5. Like I don't want. I want to stay away from it. I think I'm gonna go Philadelphia over Indianapolis at home.
I was thinking to pick the exact same game, but
Yeah,
I'll go with Green Bay against Washington. 2.5 points. I mean, that's pretty much saying straight up
yeah.
Green Bay's gonna win. So yeah, I'll
That's
go
a good one.
Green Bay. And then my upset, I'll go with upset in terms of. I don't really want to go in terms of spread, but I mean, I guess I will. In terms of spread, See, I want to go with the Chargers because that's a huge upset, but their fans don't really travel anymore. You know what? See, I don't. It was last week. I don't. Yeah, no. I'm gonna go with Detroit at home. I think Detroit at home. I don't think at all they're going to win, but since I had such a bold prediction earlier, they probably will. And I think Matt Stafford's a good enough quarterback to win, especially at home and against the Patriots the way they played last week. I think they possibly could. That's my upset. Detroit.
Um, I don't know if this counts as much of an upset. You could let me know. I think New Orleans is definitely going to beat Atlanta at home.
No, yeah, that's
Um,
definitely an upset. If it was in New Orleans, not really, but since it's on the
I
road,
think I think New
yeah,
Orleans. Then that's my pick. I think New Orleans is going to beat Atlanta. I also want to touch on real quick. I just want to talk about Tiger. The past 2 days.
forget about Tiger. You're right.
Let's not forget about Tiger Woods. He has been absolutely dominant. I have his notifications on my phone that just update me every time his score changes, and he's just been constantly up there at number one. I mean, he had a double bogey, I believe, on 17 today.
Yeah, I
And
didn't.
on 16, he had a double bogey, and he still was able to retain a tie with Justin Rose. They're in the same group.
Yeah, Eagle
Um,
19, didn't he? Or no, that was yesterday. Never
uh,
mind. That was
no,
it.
that was on Thursday. That was round one. But he had a pretty solid round yesterday. I mean, two under. He's able to maintain the lead with Justin Rose. Going into the weekend, I mean, I don't think anybody wants to be against
Oh,
Tiger when he's up at the top of the weekend.
he's never won a tournament or a major tournament. Maybe is it just majors or all tournaments?
Yeah,
When he's not winning after the first round, but his when he's winning after the first round, I can't remember the exact amount, but I'm pretty sure he wins more than half the tournaments. So
I think it's way more than that. I'm pretty sure it's like almost every
I'm
single
saying
time.
it's like more than half. I'm pretty sure it was like 29-4, something crazy. Like I don't know. I'll have to look.
Yeah,
But yeah. So I mean, from a pure athletic standpoint, from a sports standpoint, I should say, you can't root against Tiger. How do you root against the guy? He's
it's really hard.
out and battling injuries and all the drama and everything for so long, and now the fact that he's come back, and I mean, he's not back, he's not Tiger back, but he's almost up there, and he's up there right now playing some of the or playing just as good a golf as some of those guys that are up there, and
Who've
it's
been doing it the last 4 or 5 years?
exactly
When he wasn't.
Fowler and Justin Rose and Rory.
Justin Johnson and Justin Thomas. Yep. I completely agree. I think you got to really have a grudge against him for what he's done in the past and not like him. And I think it's great because everybody's going to be rooting for him. I'm excited to watch him on Sunday. Maybe skip out on a little football, but I'm very excited to see him where he's at right now. And I think going in, he's in a phenomenal spot right now. I mean, he'd have to really blow up tomorrow or on Sunday, but I'm very excited.
All right, so before we go, let's just give our quick Super Bowl predictions.
Yep.
I know you've been big on the Rams, so who do you have them facing in the Super Bowl?
I got the Rams beating the Jaguars as I did on my Twitter at HammondEggs14. It's my pinned tweet. I've had them for. I mean, I think the day that the Rams signed Ndamukong Suh, I tweeted that Rams over Jags. I just don't. I don't think there's anybody else in the AFC other than. I mean, obviously the Patriots, but they just handled the Patriots very well.
Yeah.
So I think they're gonna blow away the division. I think they could easily be a 13-14 win team.
Mhm.
The Jaguars, and I think the Rams are going to be the same exact way. And so I'm saying Rams over Jags. I'm going to stick to that.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to make it right now, I'd agree. I mean, you look at NFL teams a lot. Usually, super teams don't work, and you look at it, and they bring in all these guys on 1 year deals, and they're proving us wrong so far. This team is clicking on all aspects. Um, but
Sean McVay is one of the. I mean, he's slowly becoming one of the better coaches in the NFL.
absolutely, but I'm gonna have them. I'm not gonna pick them actually. I'm gonna go with the New Orleans Saints because yeah, people are gonna say they got off to a slow start, blah blah blah. They've started, and they should have been started 0-2 this year, but the previous 4 years they've started off 0-2 every time, and I think they've
They
went
always
to
have a bad start.
two NFC championships in that time, or I think they made the playoffs 3 of those 4 years anyway, and I think
Yeah.
it takes them a little time, but I think that defense is legit, especially the secondary. They had both rookie of the years on their team last year. Kamara's been a beast. I just think once that team starts clicking, they're going to be pretty dangerous. So I'm going to go with the Saints. In the Rams aspect, you just never know with football. All it takes sometimes is one quarterback to just tear that defense apart, and they can beat you. And in baseball, you get one shot. So I think I'm going to go with the Saints, and it's hard to go against the Jaguars right now. You're right, but Blake Bortles is also their quarterback. Oh, Minnesota's also up there too. I honestly might have
Oh yeah.
Minnesota over them too.
I have
Uh,
Minnesota. Yeah, I think it'll be the Rams and the Vikings in the championship if they get seeded like that.
yeah, I'm gonna go Saints. Yeah, Saints Jags. I think this year. Also, let's talk about. We don't really have to talk about it. Just make a comment about it. That you hear what Doug Marrone said? He hasn't watched a Super Bowl in decades. That is absolutely bonkers.
I did not see that.
Like, he said he hasn't watched a Super Bowl in like 20 years.
Jesus, that's insane.
As a head coach in the NFL, like, what?
Yeah.
People wouldn't even care about watching football. Watch that. But anyway, you have any last words for the podcast? Almost an
No,
hour.
I'm just excited. We were able to fill time.
We're probably
Hopefully
gonna
you
do
guys,
this every Thursday. Probably,
yeah, once a
probably
week we'll try
after,
and fit it in.
probably after Thursday night football, so we can get our thoughts on that. We're gonna try and have probably try to have a guest a week. Would you say? Depending on the information, if there's a lot of news going around the NBA, we could have our friend Hamza come on. Maybe if there's a lot of news in sports in general, maybe our friend Nati. Soccer, we could have our friend Nick or Kevin or someone. But yeah, hope to be a fun time. Hope to do this often. And
Just excited we
thanks.
got our first one under our belt. So I think it'll,
Took a little while to set up, but I think we got it, and
we had
should
some
be
fun.
an
It was
easy
good
ride
fun.
for the future. Thanks everyone for listening, and we appreciate it. Maybe we'll see you next week.